Ever since I was growing up, I always craved the advice of somebody that was on the path that I wanted to eventually be on. I love my family and I love the friends that I had growing up, but they weren't necessarily on that path. And when you try and ask them for advice, it's hard to understand what of it can you take in and what of it can you filter out, because you want to ensure that with the limited time that you have, you're putting your energy and focus in the areas that matter, that have high utility. And so I'm gonna be providing you advice today. This is personal advice from me to you, as if I was speaking to myself 4 or 5 years ago. Before I made the money, before I achieved the successes, I wish that I would have heard these things. And in this video, we're gonna do that for you. I hope that you're able to take this advice and realize a lot of it is practical. It's not things that I can tell you and then you won't necessarily apply. This is stuff that you can literally apply starting today. My name is Jun Yu. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I am in this flow of doing long form content. I'm really enjoying it. It's definitely different from the short form content that I've been doing for a very, very long time. But here I feel that I can just speak my mind and I don't necessarily have to have too much strategy involved aside from ensuring that the videos are videos that you guys want to enjoy. But at the same time, if I have a message to present, I know that this video will find that person. So even if there's just one person behind the screen right now, I hope that you can take this information in and utilize it. And I wish you the very biggest successes, and I'm happy to be able to help you in that journey. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Give this video a thumbs up, ask me any questions in the comments, and of course, subscribe. With that being said, let's get into the first point. Number one, take calculated risks. I see really two types of individuals. One individual is one that really has been playing it extremely safe, and the other one takes what I call uncalculated risks. These are risks that are just foolish at a point. And I want to get you in the perspective of you shouldn't be on either situation, because you want to be sure you're taking risks, because risks are where you're going to grow the most, but also knowing that they should be calculated. They can't be something reckless, right? They should be something that you are putting massive amounts of work into. So this is exactly what I mean. Let's utilize my personal experience. Growing up, I saw a lot of creators online. I followed creators from Christian Guzman, who's running Alpha Lead at the time, and me and my brother were really in that fitness space together. And I watched these creators and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And I would watch motivational speakers and I would watch all their YouTube channels. I'm like, this is so cool. I would love to be able to curate videos one day, but I never really thought that that could be me, right? Until that I started to make that decision where I realized, okay, building an online audience is the number one opportunity in today's information era. Can I start to curate content and do it consistently? So for 4.5 years, I've been curating every single day without missing a day. In that, you start to recognize, wow, there's a lot of power in putting in work and keeping your head down and not getting too ahead of yourself. I see now that people are talking about personal branding and how incredible of an opportunity it is, that people just drop out of their schools or they drop out of work and they quit that, or perhaps they just move into a city like New York without even having an audience built or a sizable audience. So they'll have like a few tens of thousands of followers, they'll have some success, and then they drop their job and they go into New York and then try to make a living for themselves, knowing that, wow, that's gonna be hard, right? And that's what I call perhaps a reckless decision. What I want you to do is put in massive amounts of work on the side to curate whatever high value skill that you want, and then to leverage it into an opportunity for yourself, but don't just quit your day to day, right? And I've shown that. I'm a biomedical engineering graduate who was getting my bachelor's and master's simultaneously with a neuroengineering concentration while building a 7-figure business on the side, while also creating a brand. I think by the time I graduated, it was over 7 million followers altogether. And I still at that point didn't ever think about dropping out, right? Because why would you? At your age, at my age, in our generation, we have the opportunity to have all this freedom, right? We're free from responsibilities. We don't have families, right? We don't have massive amounts of debt. I had student loan debt, but that wasn't required for me to be paying off until the December of this year, right? And so there's great opportunity in having this freedom, and a lot of kids just tend to not put their focus in the right spots, right? In the right places. And I shouldn't even say just kids. I mean, you look at people as they get into their 30s, and I've spoken to a lot of people in their 30s and in their 40s, and they find that time has just completely slipped away from them. And I'm like, no, it's not too late to take action now. Like, do it now, because we have great opportunity when you can take calculated risk. That means putting in massive amounts of work. You don't quit your job. You don't drop out of school. You continue on with your day-to-day responsibilities, but then you have a high sense of priorities, knowing that outside of my day-to-day responsibility, I'm going to curate a high-value skill. I'm going to leverage it, but I'm not going to rush the process. I'm not going to put immense pressure onto myself. I'm going to continue to build up a runway. And that's what I did with biomedical engineering. Never in my head was I thinking that I need to make $100,000, $200,000 off of social media before I can drop out, right? I didn't think about it in that lens. All I was thinking was biomedical engineering, bachelor's and master's, that's going to provide me a ton of opportunity. All these medical internships that I'm doing is going to provide me a ton of opportunity. And yes, I'm still going to work my tail off harder than anyone else to curate more skills outside of it that I can leverage for more opportunities in the future. Bam, that's the recipe for success. That's calculated risk taking, and that's not running away from the work. Don't just tell yourself that you're taking risk when in reality you're being lazy. That's never going to work, because everything that you choose to do is going to take an immense amount of work, and you want to ensure that you're the type of person that can take on that work without running away. So please take on that advice. Number 2, work harder than everyone else. And I truly believe in the idea of working smart because of the fact that I am an engineer, and literally our entire jobs are to find out ways to become more efficient. And that's how you work smart. But you don't just jump from doing nothing to working smart. No, you put in immense amounts of work that is grueling and that is arduous, but you do it for long periods of time to have a body of work to then be able to analyze, curate protocols, and then increase in your efficiency. That's how you end up working smart. And the reason why I find this to be so important is I find so many people that are stuck in a position in their lives and they're constantly trying to overthink the process, and they are in their own heads. For example, I know a lot of engineers who are at much higher senior positions at companies now that they've been in the industry for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and they'll come to me and say, hey, June, I want to curate a business. And these are brilliant people, right? But year after year after year after year, they still don't start their businesses. Why? Well, it's because they're overthinking the process, right? And in that, they try to work smart ahead of working hard. When you look at their engineering background, probably they were working really hard to start and then eventually worked smart in their positions as they got good at it. But people now skip the hard work part, and you can't skip that part, especially if you're my generation. That's all we got, right? Like, you might not come from money. I don't come from money. You might not come from a family background that has all these opportunities, and I didn't come from a family background like that. Like, I am in this position because of a lot of massive amounts of hard work, and that builds character, right? There's programs at my school. It was an entrepreneurship program, and I thought that this program was incredible, and I got very, very fortunate to be able to win an award after applying for it and going through many interviews. And it was basically getting paid $19,000 to start my own business as part of my school's entrepreneurship program. You fast forward a few months of me in that program, and I'm making more money than a majority of the businesses that have been there, that from students that have been in that program for 3-4 years, right? It's not to brag, and this is what I teach them, right? Because I want to provide that information. It's like, how come on a Tuesday night you're going out when you have this business idea, right? How come on Thursday night that you're going out and the Friday morning you can't show up on time? Like, how come you're doing this when you don't even have a business set? How come you've been in this process for the last 4 years and haven't been able to get out of the planning phase, out of the market research phase, out of the minimal viable product phase? How come you haven't actually gotten a client? How come you haven't actually sold a product? There's too much thinking. There's too much trying to work smart. And when you can put this level of responsibility on yourself to work hard first, things tend to fall into place. So I had no idea about entrepreneurship. I had no idea about business when I started this program. I'm an engineering background. I knew nothing. I didn't have the textbook like they did, but I was willing to work way more hours than everyone else was. I showed up to the office first. I left last. I was there Saturday through Sunday. I did that because I understand the power of working hard. And after you curate a body of work now for the last 1.5 to 2 years while doing business, you start to understand more of protocols, and I mean business and the scale of what I'm currently doing, and then you have the opportunity to then grow in your efficiency. That's working smart. So just please, like, work harder than everyone else, right? Like, that's what you have. You have your energy, do that, okay? I know that was simple, but I feel like it has to be said because it can take you a lot of places. Because when you can work hard and then we can bring about the smarts later on with efficiency tools, then you have the opportunity to really be a powerhouse. Number 3, consistency is so much better than motivational spurts. A lot of people's productivity looks like this. New Year resolution, super high productivity. January, February, March, super high, and then starts to tweak down maybe into like, let's call it end of March, early April, and then it like dies down in like May. And then when the summer comes up, everyone's motivation is high because they want to look good. And then it comes into their winters, and then like everyone's motivation has completely depleted by then, right? The New Year starts over, and it's this exact same idea of cyclic behavior of it's like a sinusoidal wave, right? It's like somebody that is high productivity, low productivity, you'll never get anywhere that you want to get to if you're like that. Instead, I'm gonna give you a very practical advice. This is advice that I provided in my mentorship program. Anytime that you feel these motivational spurts, absolutely take advantage of it. But before you jump into the work and do 12 hours of work that day on that specific skill, just because you have this sense of motivation to it, take 30 minutes. In that 30 minutes, plan out how you're going to actually feasibly put time into this project on a daily basis for the next 2 months, for the next month. And when your emotions are high, your motivation is high, you're gonna have no problem doing that. But what happens is that when that motivation dies down, you actually have structure around your daily days to approach that skill at a high level, even when you don't feel like it, then massive things tend to happen. So no matter how you feel, you're actually still making progress. That is the name of the game, consistency, right? But that's how you practically do it. If your motivation is high, take advantage of it, but don't just take advantage of it by doing 13 hours of work one day, burning yourself out, and the next day you show up and you're like, yeah, actually, I'm kind of like lost and unfocused now. I want to do something different. You'll never get to any level of success doing that. Have consistency in what you're doing. Choose 2 domains that you really want to focus upon and grow in that for long periods of time. And then you'll find yourself curating motivation, curating momentum, right? But that's not as important as the consistency involved. So that's how you do it. You break it down into feasible goals for yourself. And that's the difference between a macro and a micro goal. And we talk a lot about that, so I won't go heavily into it, but that's advice number 3. Number 4, structure is the answer for everyone. Now, the extent of structure is obviously going to depend, but I get this pushback all the time. And it's people that either think they're really great at creating schedules for themselves, and I look at it and I'm like, wow, there's so much room for improvement. And then 2, I see people saying, no, I'm very spontaneous and I don't like schedules. And I ask them, I'm like, all right, so what have you had progress in the last year? And they're like, well, not much. And I say, well, it's because you lack structure, right? Everyone needs structure. It doesn't mean that every single hour of your day has to be planned out with work. That's not what I mean. But structure also includes time for rest and play so that you have an opportunity to be really present in the moment with your friends and family and the people that you love. There's actual ways to strategically get better at scheduling because it's a skill. And as part of the quote unquote schedule, it is structure that you can remain consistent with over a long span of time. So I've now gotten a chance to be connected with some really high achievers, right? And I mean really high achievers. And what I've noticed is that their weekdays look very similar to their weekends. When their work responsibilities are higher versus when their quote unquote work responsibilities are lower. So for students, it's like during the school year versus your summer vacation, it looks very similar. What I'm trying to tell you is that they've created structure that's feasible for them to achieve on a daily basis because results compound, right? And people that aren't as successful, that are constantly in this cyclic behavior, making the same New Year's resolutions goals, it's because they have no structure, right? They say, you know what, Monday through Friday, I'm gonna solely focus on school and I gotta get really good at school, and that's all they do. That's the only structure that they have in their minds. And the Saturday and Sunday, they're waking up at like 2 p.m. And it's like they're having no structure around their days whatsoever. Instead, if you could start to think about, all right, if I can even get like 30 minutes of my time back Monday through Friday in a manner that's structured, that's not in my school schedule, so whether it's like in the morning or at night, and I can actively put it towards a goal of mine, and I can do the same thing on Saturdays and Sundays. I don't need to make my whole Saturdays and Sundays work, not at all. But if I can have a 2-hour peak productivity window during my Saturdays and my Sundays, those 2 hours over the long term are gonna build such great results because they're compounding, right? The daily inputs are compounding over time. It's that exponential success because they actually have inputs on a daily basis. They're not somebody that has inputs only like Monday through Thursday for a little bit of time and nothing Friday through Sunday. And then because they have nothing Friday through Sunday, their Mondays are lackadaisical. Does that make sense? So having structure is so important for everyone, and having it not be restrictive, but adding to your life is important. Number 5, focus on what you can control. And this is synonymous with June's 4 wins. It's your mind, your body, your spirit, honest accountability wins. And we've talked about that heavily in the prior video, and we've talked about it heavily in the video where you are trying to design a life that you're obsessed with. These are all the 4 wins because it's what you can control, right? So much of life is chaotic because you're constantly focusing on things that you can't control. You might be worrying constantly about what X and Y and Z think about you, or think about how that job might hire you, when in reality, what you can focus on is, all right, how can I like myself in situation A? And then situation B about the job application is like, how many more jobs can I apply to? So even if that person doesn't hire me, even if that company doesn't hire me, I still have all these different potential opportunities, right? That's the flip of the mind. It's controlling what's in front of you. And that leads into a life where it doesn't feel so chaotic all the time. Doing this consistently, and I think I've kind of beaten the word consistent so many times, it's because I truly believe in that. I am not somebody that is the smartest, not the most talented, but I show up every single day. There isn't a day that I don't show up. And the reason why is because I understand the power of compounding interest. When you can do that and have daily inputs with your 4 wins, especially a mental win for 15 minutes, a physical win for 45 minutes, a spiritual win for 15 minutes, an accountability win for 15 minutes, great things happen. Massive success will come your way if you can show up even when you don't feel like it. And guess what? This is a rewiring of your brain. You've been programmed so far to do things that are easy for you, to run away from things that are hard, to run away from consistency, and to run towards motivation. We are reprogramming your mind to be completely different. You will be the few versus the many if you can complete your 4 wins on a daily basis. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the 5 pieces of advice that I feel immensely passionate about. And if I had somebody to tell me that those were the right things to think of and I was still doing that, man, I think I would have reached a lot more success at even an earlier age, right? Because the truth of the matter is, nowadays, it's so much easier than ever before. Not because there isn't as much distraction, but actually quite the opposite. That there's so much distraction that you don't have to be even talented. You don't even have to come from money. You can literally just follow through with your promises long after the emotion in which you originally set those promises in have subsided, because it does for everyone. And you will be the few. You will be the 1%. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Leave your comments below with any thoughts, with any questions. I'm more than happy to respond to them. Give this video a thumbs up, and of course, subscribe. I love you guys so much, and I hope that you're all taking care of yourselves, and I will see you all at the top.